You ever notice how we spend so much time betting on outcomes we can't control? Whether that's in sports, opportunities, timing, or even people. But at the same time, we hesitate to bet on the one thing that we can actually influence. I realized this recently as I started paying more attention to basketball culture, especially the betting side of it. And it got me thinking, not about gambling itself, but about how deeply uncomfortable many of us are when it comes to trusting our own potential. And that's what I want to talk about today. Because betting on others is easy. Betting on yourself, that's where everything changes. This is your weekly reset. Let's dive in. I've always been fascinated by the fact that betting never really appealed to me. I mean, I don't judge anyone who enjoys it. It's never been something that I personally gravitated toward. And I've wondered why. Is it a control thing? Am I controlling? I don't know. Is it because I didn't grow up around it? Maybe. I'll save that for my future therapy sessions with my therapist. But as I became more invested in basketball, the betting world became familiar. It's undeniably all over basketball and sports in general. Parlays, predictions, the excitement of if my player hits X amount of points or hits this rebounds or gets this number of assists, you know, I'm going to cook. This is going to be my ticket out. And on the surface level, it's entertainment. But if you look closely, it genuinely reveals something deeper about human behavior. Because I think what betting is really about is you're essentially placing your hope, your expectations, your emotional outcome on somebody else doing exactly what you want them to do. And that's exactly why it never really sat right with me, if I'm being honest. Not because it's wrong. I don't judge anybody who does this. This is just a personal reflection, but because it highlights something we don't like to talk about. It's easier to bet on someone else than it is to bet on yourself. You know, betting on someone else, to be honest, feels safer. It's the safer option. If they underperform, it's on them. If they exceed expectations, cha-ching, money on me. You celebrate, and either way, your identity is not on the line. But the difference with betting on yourself is there's no one else to point to. The outcome, win or lose, reflects on your level of belief, your level of preparation, your consistency. How often are you showing up for yourself? Your willingness to act. I said, I'm going to do this today. Did I do it or did I not do it? That level of accountability makes a lot of people uncomfortable. Now, having watched basketball over the last couple of years in that same world, there's a point guard who used to play for the Raptors, and his name is Fred VanVleet. And he shifted my entire thinking about betting and betting on yourself. If you don't know Fred's story, he went undrafted and he was overlooked by every team in the league. He had no guaranteed contract. He had no promises. And on draft night, he actually had a draft party that he ended up not getting selected to any team. But his mantra on that same night was he was going to bet on himself to get into the league. And I don't know about you, but certain moments call for guts. And that was a gutsy call because he went ahead and lived it and he trusted his preparation. He trusted his resilience. He trusted the work that he put in when nobody was watching. And that's the most important thing, man. Like, I can't emphasize enough on just showing up for you. Doesn't matter who's watching, who's not watching, just show up for you. So how did Fred eventually turn out? Eventually, he became an NBA champion and earned one of the biggest contracts ever signed by an undrafted player. To me, that's an amazing story of betting on yourself. Fred didn't wait for someone to deliver his win. He became the win, you know? And it made me ask myself, which in turn I want to ask you, how often do you actually bet on you? Not on other people, not on circumstances around you. How often do you actually bet on you? I think it's interesting how we're willing and very open to place faith in things we can't control. Other people, the timing, external validation. But at the same front, we really hesitate to place that same faith in our own potential. You know, it's crazy that we bet on job opportunities to give us purpose instead of actually developing skills that build purpose internally. It's so easy to identify with what you do for work, but at the end of the day, who are you beyond that, right? We bet on relationships to complete us. And relationships takes two people, two different worlds to come together and actually form a union. Instead of doing the emotional work that actually keeps us whole, because if we show up whole and as authentic and as fully as ourselves, it becomes a better relationship. We bet on timing, waiting for the right moment. Instead of just being consistent with our actions, just doing it and learning from it. Action will give you the quickest form of feedback, right? And sometimes we bet on inspiration instead of betting on discipline. How often do we start a new month with great expectations and then we falter into the same routines that have us just lulling through the month? And then at the end of the year, when we look back, we realize something different. The bets that we place on others, they grow fast, but the bets that we place on ourselves, I think they grow deep. And in a culture where we're so enslaved with instant gratification, I think deep work is actually what changes your life. So, as this year wraps up, I want you to reflect on your own emotional parlays. Where did you invest your time and energy into? Who were you unconsciously waiting on to score for you? Which bets paid off and which ones didn't? And if we flip that perspective, what bets did you place on yourself this year? And how did those pay off in the long run? Because here's the truth that nobody wants to share. Every meaningful pivot, every breakthrough, every transformation, whether it's personal, spiritual, creative, or professional, came from someone who took a leap of faith and bet on themselves before anyone else did. You can borrow inspiration from others, but you cannot outsource your destiny. And the only thing that will get you closer to your destiny is your work ethic and your belief system, believing in what you do and who you are. So this week, I want you to sit with this. What is the one bet that you avoided making on yourself this year? And what would your life look like if you finally placed that bet in 2026? I promise you, you don't have to change everything. You just need to place one meaningful bet on yourself and then back it up with consistent action. Consistent action. Show up for yourself every single day and get the feedback quick, reiterate, and keep moving forward. This was your weekly reset. I hope you liked this content. Please like, follow, subscribe, comment, share, all of that jazz. See you guys next week.